Across the dark sea of stars, silence ruled most of space. Civilizations lived far apart, each holding their own corner of the galaxy. For thousands of years, alien empires had fought, traded, and watched one another carefully. Every new species discovered was judged the same way, weak or strong, useful or dangerous. Then, one quiet night in the listening posts on the edge of the Orion Arm, a strange new sound broke the silence. The signal was not noise. It was steady, structured, and full of purpose. The operators at the station stared at their consoles in disbelief. A new voice had spoken into the endless void. Reports were sent quickly, and within hours the news spread like fire. A new species had reached the stars. They called themselves humanity. At first, the galaxy was not impressed. Every century, some small race stumbled into space, eager but fragile, hungry for knowledge yet too weak to defend itself. Most were absorbed by larger empires, used as workers, servants, or simply erased if they resisted. The older powers laughed. Another weakling had arrived, they said. Another child to teach obedience. But the more they studied the human signal, the less sure they became. The message was calm, almost polite, but behind it was something unsettling. The language carried a rhythm that felt unyielding, like stone carved against storms. One alien scholar said, "This is not the sound of a child. This is the sound of someone who has already survived." Soon the great empires called for a gathering. A first contact must be arranged. Representatives from dozens of systems agreed to meet at a neutral star, far from anyone's home, where the humans would appear for the first time. The galaxy prepared itself, eager to see whether humanity would beg for protection or offer gifts in desperation. Everyone assumed the same thing. Humans would arrive in a small fragile ship, carrying diplomats and scientists, asking for a place among the stars. Whispers spread in hidden chambers. Some powers planned to recruit humanity as an ally, others as a servant. Some even spoke of seizing their homeworld before rivals could. Few considered that humans might be more than prey. On the day of the meeting, the chosen system was crowded with ships. Sleek vessels of the Trade Guild floated beside the spiked warcruisers of the Core Dominion. The proud banners of the Hellion Empire shone brightly, and shadowed frigates of the VYRN Collective drifted silently at the edges. Every empire had come, hungry for the same thing, to measure humanity. Time passed, and tension grew. The stars glittered in the black sky as alien crews waited. Some mocked the humans before they had even arrived. Others grew restless, curious about what face this new species would show. Then, without warning, the silence was broken again. Space itself rippled. A gateway opened, and something began to emerge. At first, it was only a shadow, larger than anything expected. Slowly, a shape pushed forward into real space, its hull stretching longer, wider, taller than most of the alien ships present. Lights flickered across its surface, glowing blue and silver, like the eyes of a beast waking from sleep. The signal changed. It no longer carried words, only a calm pulse, deep and strong, like a heartbeat that filled every channel. The watching aliens froze. This was not a scout. This was not a fragile shuttle. It was a warship. And not just any warship, its size rivaled the greatest dreadnoughts in the galaxy. The humans had arrived in something the galaxy had never seen before, a Titan-class warship. Shock spread through the fleets. Captains whispered in disbelief. Diplomats stared in horror. Some laughed nervously, believing it a bluff, a shell with no real strength. Others felt cold fear, realizing that a new power had stepped into the stage of the galaxy not with open hands, but with a shadow so large it swallowed the stars. The Titan hung in silence, calm yet terrifying, as if daring the galaxy to make its judgment. For the first time in centuries, the gathering of empires did not know what to say. The rules had been broken. Humanity had arrived, and with its arrival, the galaxy would never be the same again. And so, the first signal ended not with a whisper of weakness, but with a shadow of strength. The galaxy could not believe what it had just seen, and in the silence that followed, one question echoed across every ship, every mind, and every empire present. Who are these humans? And what do they want? News of the Titans' arrival spread across the galaxy like a storm. Fleets that had once laughed at humanity's first signal now spoke in hushed tones. Messages rushed between empires, leaders held emergency councils, and spies were sent to uncover the truth. Who were these humans? How could a young species build such a ship? The galaxy had seen warships, but never one like this. Never a vessel that looked less like a tool of defense and more like a statement of power. The empires realized they could not ignore this. They needed answers, and they needed to see for themselves what kind of species had stepped into the stars with such force. A grand council was declared. Not on one empire's homeworld, for no one trusted the others enough for that, but in the neutral star system of Sarion's Reach. It was a system with no habitable planets, only a burning blue star and a ring of broken asteroids. Yet it had long served as a meeting place for rival powers. Here, fleets could gather under strict rules of peace, weapons charged but not fired, eyes open but hands restrained. One by one, the great powers arrived. First came the shining ships of the Hellion Empire, their hulls plated in gold and white, a symbol of their pride and wealth. Their emperor claimed to rule by divine right, and his diplomats whispered of guiding young races into civilized life. Many believed they wanted humanity as a vassal state, chained by holy law. Next came the VYRN Collective, a silent swarm of dark frigates that moved as if they shared one mind. The VYRN were feared for their cold logic and endless numbers. They believed in assimilation, that all species must become part of their greater whole. Humanity, in their eyes, was either a future addition or a threat to a race. The core dominion entered with thunder. Their ships were spiked with weapons, jagged and cruel, each one designed to intimidate. The core lived for conquest, glory, and the crushing of rivals. To them, humanity's titan was a challenge, and challenges were meant to be broken. Then came the Trade Guild, a vast alliance of merchants and profiteers. Their vessels glittered with lights, painted in countless colors, carrying treasures from across the stars. They cared less about war and more about markets. Humanity's warship was not terrifying to them, it was a potential investment or a dangerous competitor. And these were only the greatest among many. Dozens of smaller powers came too, curious, cautious, eager not to be left behind. The meeting place around Sarion's Reach grew crowded with ships, each one taking position like predators around a watering hole, waiting for their prey. But who was the prey now? Inside their war rooms, alien leaders debated. Some said the Titan was a trick, perhaps built by an older empire and gifted to humanity to test the balance of power. Others whispered that humans might be hiding more ships, an entire fleet of Titans waiting to emerge. None could agree, but all agreed on one thing: they had to see the humans face to face. The council chamber itself was a colossal station built long ago for such gatherings. It hung in orbit around the largest asteroid, a neutral zone where weapons were forbidden. Its halls were lined with banners of countless species, and its central chamber was a ring-shaped arena where delegates would appear as towering holograms. The galaxy's eyes turned to this place, waiting for the moment humanity would speak. As the fleets took their places, tension filled the air. The Hellion ambassador smirked, already certain that humanity could be brought to heel with promises of glory and faith. The core warlords laughed, boasting that they would shatter the Titan with their dreadnoughts and make the humans kneel. The VYRN remained silent, their ships drifting like shadows, their intentions hidden. The guild whispered among themselves, calculating profits, wondering if humanity would sell or trade their technology. But beneath the noise was unease. The Titan had not moved since its arrival. It had not fired a weapon, made no threats, and yet its presence was louder than any words. Every captain who looked upon it felt a chill. This was no bluff. This was no fragile scout ship. This was a message: humanity had come not as a child seeking guidance, but as an equal demanding respect. At last, the council called the meeting to order. Lights dimmed across the station, and the great chamber came alive with holograms. Alien figures rose around the ring: scaled warriors, feathered nobles, machine minds wrapped in steel, insectoid queens, and many more. Their voices echoed, layered with translators, each speaking in turn. They welcomed the humans, though their smiles were sharp. They praised the humans, though their words carried hidden threats. Then silence fell. All eyes turned to the center of the chamber, waiting. The humans had been summoned. Would they send frail diplomats as expected? Would they arrive fearful, eager to please? Or would they dare to present themselves as conquerors? The chamber lights shifted. A new hologram began to form. At first it was a shadow, tall and solid. Slowly, the image sharpened, and the first human face appeared before the galaxy. A commander in dark uniform, eyes steady, voice calm. And as he spoke his first words, the chamber trembled with unease. "We are humanity," he said. "We come in peace. But we do not come weak." The words hung in the air, sharp as blades, heavy as stone. For a long moment, no one spoke. The galaxy, proud and ancient, found itself speechless. And so, the gathering of powers began, but already the balance had shifted. Humanity had entered the council not as prey, but as a storm waiting to break. The empires watched with narrowed eyes, and in the silence of their thoughts one truth repeated again and again. The galaxy could not believe what humanity had done. The chamber was still echoing with the human commander's words when the real shock arrived. Outside, in the cold space around Sarion's reach, fleets of 100 species waited and watched. They had gathered expecting a simple meeting, perhaps to see a small human ship approach with caution. Instead, something far greater unfolded before their eyes. The void shimmered as a massive distortion ripped open, like the fabric of space itself was being torn apart. A ripple of light spread across the system, and from that ripple emerged a vessel so vast, so impossible, that even the most powerful warlords held their breath. It was the Titan. At first, the alien fleets thought they were seeing an eclipse. The colossal shadow stretched across the stars, dwarfing every ship near it. As it slowly moved forward, light caught its edges, revealing thick black armor carved with deep lines of silver and blue. Hundreds of weapon turrets bristled along its frame, each one larger than an entire corvette. Energy cores pulsed along its spine, burning like captured suns. The Titan-class warship was not a vessel of exploration. It was a fortress, a declaration of strength given shape. Panic rippled through the gathered fleets. The Hellion Emperor's golden ships sent frantic signals to one another. The core Dominion warlords cursed loudly, claiming this was provocation. The Trade Guild chattered in confusion, wondering what kind of wealth could build such a monster. Even the silent VYRN collective flickered with unease. For the first time, the great powers did not mock humanity. They feared them. Inside the council chamber, the human commander stood tall as alien voices shouted. Some accused humanity of arrogance. Others demanded an explanation. Why had they brought such a weapon to a meeting of peace? Was this intimidation? Was this a challenge? The human commander did not flinch. He simply replied in a calm voice that echoed through the chamber. The Titan is not here to threaten. It is here to remind. Humanity does not arrive weak. Still, unease grew. The core Dominion's warlord slammed his clawed hand against the table and bellowed that humanity was hiding behind machines. He claimed that true power was measured in warriors, not steel. His words carried across the chamber, sharp and mocking, and many allies nodded in agreement. Yet even as they spoke, their eyes returned to the shadow outside the station. No one could deny the fear that the Titan inspired. Then came the moment that silenced every doubt. Sensors across the system flared as the Titan shifted its position. It turned slowly, with the grace of a predator circling its prey. Panels opened along its hull, and lines of light glowed bright. Alien ships scrambled to analyze it, but the numbers that returned were impossible. The Titan carried enough firepower to match entire fleets. Its armor was layered thicker than any dreadnought. Its shields pulsed with energy so dense that nothing short of a superweapon could pierce it. Whispers filled the chamber. How had humanity, a young race, achieved this? What secrets did they hold? Some believed they had stolen designs from an ancient race. Others whispered darker rumors, that humans had found ruins of forgotten gods and built weapons from their bones. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear: humanity had arrived with strength that no one had expected. The Hellion ambassador, dressed in shining robes, tried to restore order. He praised humanity's effort but warned that peace required humility. His words were polite, but his tone dripped with condescension. The human commander listened without a smile. He answered simply, "Peace requires respect." The words hung heavy, and the Hellion fell silent. The core warlords snarled, muttering about testing the Titan in battle. Their fleets shifted restlessly, engines glowing as if ready for war. But deep inside, even they hesitated. They had fought countless foes, crushed countless rivals, but none had ever dared to appear in such a way. To challenge the Titan meant risking humiliation, or worse, annihilation. The VYRN collective remained quiet, their voices whispering in machine code too fast for others to follow. They did not speak in the chamber, but their silence was louder than words. The Trade Guild, meanwhile, could not contain their curiosity. Their ambassador leaned forward, asking what resources, what markets, what technology humanity had used to create such power. The human commander gave no answer. He only looked at them with cold eyes and said, "Humanity builds what it must to survive." That single line spread like fire across the chamber. Survive. The word carried weight. It hinted at struggle, at history soaked in battles, at a species forged not in luxury but in hardship. The aliens began to see humanity differently. This was not a race that stumbled blindly into the stars. This was a race that had clawed its way upward, step by step, and had come prepared for anything. As the Titan drifted into position, its shadow falling over fleets that once thought themselves mighty, a silence settled across Sarion's reach. The galaxy was watching, and the galaxy was afraid. Humanity had not fired a shot, but the message was already written in steel. They had arrived, and their arrival had changed everything. When the chamber adjourned for the day, alien leaders returned to their ships in silence. No one laughed at humanity anymore. No one spoke of them as prey. Now, they were a question, a mystery, a storm waiting to break. And though the galaxy was filled with countless voices, one thought echoed through them all. If this was only the beginning, what else was humanity hiding? The Titan drifted in silence above the council station, its vast shadow covering fleets that once believed themselves unmatched. Its weapons were quiet, its hull calm, yet its very presence was louder than thunder. For centuries the galaxy had measured strength in fleets, in numbers, in empires built across thousands of stars. But here, a single ship had shifted the balance. The galaxy had never seen such a statement. The aliens who watched felt a cold truth settle in their hearts. Humanity was not to be ignored. Sensors from every fleet scanned the Titan, trying to unlock its secrets. The data that came back shook even the most confident commanders. The energy output of its reactors was off the charts. The thickness of its armor was beyond known limits. Its weapon mounts numbered in the hundreds, yet its systems showed efficiency no one could understand. Some whispered that this ship alone could face entire armadas. Others feared it might not even be the largest humanity had built. The more they studied, the more questions grew, and with them, fear spread like fire. Inside the council chamber, the tension thickened. Delegates argued in raised voices, demanding explanations. Some cried that humanity had come to intimidate, that peace was now impossible with such a weapon present. Others insisted that fear alone did not mean hostility, that perhaps humans had simply learned harsh lessons from their past. But none could ignore the weight pressing against them, the invisible shockwave that the Titan's presence had unleashed. The core Dominion was the first to break the silence of fear. Their warlord stood, his heavy armor clattering, his voice a roar across the chamber. He declared that humanity was arrogant, that strength shown without battle was meaningless. He called the Titan a hollow beast, all shadow and no bite. His words were meant to ignite courage among his allies, but even his followers hesitated. Outside, their ships drifted uneasily, their captains staring at the massive human warship as if it were a predator waiting to strike. The human commander listened to the accusations without anger. His voice, when it came, was calm but unyielding. "We bring peace," he said. "But we bring it with strength. Weak peace is broken. Strong peace is respected." The words struck the chamber like a hammer. Some aliens scoffed, some laughed bitterly, but others lowered their heads, unable to deny the truth in those simple lines. The Titan's existence was proof enough. Then the moment came that changed everything. A smaller faction, proud but reckless, decided to test the humans. A cruiser from the Zir Enclave broke formation and aimed its weapons at the Titan. Its commander, a young leader desperate to prove his power, fired a single pulse shot. The bright beam of energy crossed the void and struck the Titan's shields. The reaction was instant. The shield flared bright blue, absorbing the blast without even a flicker of damage. The energy readings spiked across every sensor in the system. The Titan had not even moved, had not returned fire, yet its defense was impenetrable. The Zir commander, shaken, prepared another shot. Before he could fire, the Titan responded. A low hum echoed through the system as one of its side turrets activated. It fired a single pulse, not at the Zir ship's hull but at its weapons array. In less than a second, the cruiser's guns melted, disabled completely. The ship spun helplessly, drifting powerless in the void. The Titan had not destroyed it. It had not killed the crew. It had only made one message very clear: humanity had the power to end a battle instantly, yet they chose restraint. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted that this was proof of humanity's aggression. Others claimed it showed wisdom, mercy paired with strength. The Zir ambassador sat in silence, humiliated, unable to speak. The galaxy had seen the truth with its own eyes. Humanity could defend itself against attack without mercy, but it did not need to slaughter to prove its point. The shockwave spread beyond the chamber. Across the galaxy, as reports of the incident traveled, millions of voices argued in every empire. Was humanity a threat or a savior? Were they conquerors hiding behind polite words, or were they guardians who believed only in strength as a shield? Every empire saw the Titan differently, but none saw humanity as weak anymore. The Hellion Empire whispered that the humans could be holy warriors, destined to cleanse the galaxy of chaos. The core Dominion fumed with rage, swearing they would one day challenge the Titan and prove themselves. The trade guild saw endless profit, dreaming of contracts, deals, and trade with a power that could not be ignored. The VYRN collective said nothing, but in their silence their calculations grew dark. For humanity, the message had been sent. They had not asked for war, but they had shown that if war came, they would not fall. The Titan floated calmly, its weapons quiet once more, its shields glowing faintly like the heart of a sleeping giant. Yet no one in the galaxy could forget what they had witnessed. From that day, the galaxy no longer looked at humanity as newcomers. They looked at them as a force that had reshaped the balance. A force that carried both fear and hope. The shockwave of their arrival would continue to ripple, reaching worlds far beyond Sarion's reach, stirring doubts, dreams, and fears in equal measure. And as the council adjourned once more, one thought echoed through the hearts of every empire, whispered in fear, awe, or secret admiration. If one Titan could shake the galaxy like this, what would happen if humanity had more? The council chamber was silent after the Titan disabled the Zir cruiser. The display had been quick, precise, and merciful, yet its message echoed through every corner of the hall. The humans had not come to posture. They had not come to threaten without cause. They had come to show the galaxy that they were ready for whatever dangers awaited them. For long minutes no one spoke, each delegate lost in their own thoughts, measuring the new power that had stepped into their arena. Then, at last, the human commander raised his voice again. His words were calm, but his tone was like iron. Humanity has learned from history, he said. We know peace without strength is fragile. We know promises without defense are lies. So we come to you as equals, not as servants, not as prey. We bring open hands, but those hands are not empty. The chamber stirred. Some whispered angrily. Others stared in uneasy silence. The Hellion ambassador rose first, his golden robes glittering under the lights. His voice was smooth, dripping with arrogance disguised as kindness. "You speak of peace," he said, "but you arrive with weapons. You speak of respect, yet you cast a shadow across us all. Do you not see how your actions frighten others? Do you not understand humility?" The human commander met his gaze without flinching. "We understand humility well," he replied. "Our world has known hunger. Our people have known war. We have buried our dead under skies of fire. That is why we carry strength. It is not arrogance. It is survival." A murmur swept the chamber. Even the proud Hellion faltered, sensing the weight of those words. The core warlord, bristling with fury, slammed his fist against the table. "Survival," he growled. "Every race claims survival as its excuse. Strength must be tested. Words are nothing. If you seek respect, you must prove it in battle." His voice roared across the chamber, his followers pounding their chests in agreement. But the human commander did not rise to the bait. His eyes were cold, his tone steady. "We have already proven our strength," he said. "You saw it. You felt it. But we will not kill to earn applause. Respect given by fear alone is worthless. Respect earned through restraint is eternal." The chamber fell quiet again. This time, the silence was heavier. Many of the delegates looked at one another, uncertain. The humans had answered the challenge not with bluster but with wisdom. The Titan had shown power, but the humans themselves showed discipline. That balance unsettled the galaxy even more than brute force. Then the Trade Guild's ambassador leaned forward, his many eyes glittering with greed. "If survival is your goal, then trade is your ally," he said. "Sell us your technology, and we will give you wealth beyond imagination. Share your weapons, and we will ensure your people never go hungry again. Together we can turn your strength into profit." His words were eager, tempting, spoken like a merchant smelling endless riches. The human commander shook his head. "Humanity's strength is not for sale," he answered. "It is not treasure to be traded. It is a shield. A shield for our people, and perhaps one day, for others who seek peace without chains. We do not build titans for markets. We build them because our survival demands it." This answer sent ripples through the chamber. Some delegates were impressed. Others grew fearful. The VYRN collective remained silent, their insectoid faces unreadable, but their ships outside shifted slightly, as if restless. The Hellion ambassador whispered to his aides, angered by humanity's refusal to bow. The core warlords grinned cruelly, seeing a challenge worth fighting. The Trade Guild muttered in disappointment, realizing that their profits would not come easily. Then, without warning, the human commander made a gesture. Behind him, the hologram shifted, and a new image filled the chamber. It was not a weapon this time. It was a flag. A symbol marked with the blue and green of Earth, surrounded by the emblems of many nations united as one. Humanity had not come divided, each government seeking its own gain. They had come together, bound by shared purpose. "This is who we are," the commander said. "We are many peoples, but we are one humanity. We have known division. We have known conflict. But we have learned. We stand united now, because divided we cannot survive. This warship does not belong to one nation. It belongs to all of us. The Titan is humanity itself, built from our past, carrying our future." The chamber froze. For the galaxy, this was unthinkable. No empire, no alliance had ever truly united so completely. Even the collective was bound by force, not by choice. The humans had achieved something others considered impossible. The delegates whispered to each other in disbelief. Could this unity be real? Could it last? Or was it another trick? The core warlord sneered, calling it weakness to hide behind symbols. The Hellion ambassador muttered that such unity would crack under pressure. But others, smaller powers long ignored by the great empires, stared at the human flag with quiet hope. Perhaps humanity offered something the galaxy had lost long ago. As the session ended, the human commander spoke once more. His voice was steady, final, carrying across the chamber like a verdict. We come to you with strength, but not to conquer. We come to you with unity, but not to submit. We come in peace, but we will not bow. Remember this well, for it is the truth of humanity. The chamber emptied into silence, but the words remained. Outside, the Titan floated like a silent guardian, its lights glowing faintly in the darkness. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread, some of fear, some of anger, some of admiration. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had heard. The meaning of those words would echo for centuries. And as the fleets prepared for what came next, one thought haunted them all. If humanity was united now, what would they become tomorrow? The council's chambers had emptied, but tension still lingered in the void around Sarion's reach. The Titan floated quietly among fleets of every empire, its presence heavy like a storm that refused to break. The galaxy had listened to humanity's words, and though many had been impressed, others remained restless. Pride burned in the hearts of certain empires, pride that would not allow them to accept humanity so easily. And in that pride, a dangerous decision was made. Far beyond the council station, hidden at the edge of the system, a small coalition of warships gathered in secret. They belonged to the Drax Imperium, a proud warrior people known for their aggression. The Drax had sat silent during the council, but their leaders seethed with rage. To them, the Titan was an insult, a challenge to their honor. They whispered that humanity's restraint was weakness, that their warship was nothing but an overbuilt toy. If humanity wished to sit at the galaxy's table, they would need to be tested by fire. The plan was simple. A Drax cruiser would strike, not with a warning shot this time, but with a full attack. If the Titan was truly strong, it would reveal its hand. If it was bluffing, humanity would be crushed, and the balance of power restored. Confident in their might, the Drax launched their ships into position. Inside the Titan, alarms flared. The crew moved swiftly, calm but alert. On the bridge, the human commander studied the approaching fleet. His officers looked to him for orders. "They will test us," he said softly. "So we will answer. But we will answer in our way." Outside, the Drax flagship opened fire. Beams of searing plasma shot across the void, striking the Titan's shields with the force of a collapsing star. The shields flared bright, rippling like water under rain, but they held firm. The energy barely scratched the surface. The Titan's hull did not tremble. Not even once. Gasps spread through the fleets watching from afar. The Drax had unleashed a barrage that could tear through most battleships, yet the Titan absorbed it like a mountain standing against the wind. The Drax commander snarled and ordered more. Dozens of ships poured fire into the human warship, lighting the void with violent streams of destruction. The Titan remained still, quiet, its shields glowing with steady confidence. Finally, the human commander spoke. "Return fire," he ordered. But his command was precise. One volley. Disable their weapons only. No deaths if it can be avoided. The Titan moved. Its weapons lit up, hundreds of cannons glowing with blue fire. But only a fraction discharged. The shots crossed space in blinding arcs, striking the Drax fleet with impossible accuracy. One by one, the enemy ships went silent. Weapons melted, engines sputtered, systems shut down. In less than a minute, the mighty Drax fleet was crippled. Not a single ship destroyed, not a single life lost, but every vessel left powerless, drifting in shame. The silence that followed was greater than any explosion. Across the system, fleets froze. Every captain, every soldier, every diplomat understood the message. Humanity had passed the test. Not only did their Titan hold against the storm, it answered with precision, mercy, and absolute control. Where others might have slaughtered, humanity chose restraint. That choice was more terrifying than destruction itself. In the council chamber, the Drax delegate shouted in fury, his voice echoing with humiliation. "This is an outrage," he cried. "You cripple our ships, you shame our warriors, And you dare call it peace? His words were venom, but they found little support. Even those who disliked humanity could not deny what they had seen. The Titan had proven itself, and the humans had proven their resolve. The human commander answered calmly. We did not seek this fight. You forced it. We could have ended you. We chose not to. Learn from this. His voice carried no anger, only certainty. And that certainty was harder to face than rage. The smaller powers of the galaxy were the first to change. Worlds long bullied by the greater empires saw in humanity something new. Not conquerors. Not overlords. But a people who carried strength without cruelty. For the weak, humanity's example was a spark of hope. For the strong, it was a warning. The Hellion ambassador spoke again, his voice trembling with forced calm. You show great power, he said. But such power must be controlled. Will you swear to obey the laws of the Council? The human commander's reply was simple, direct, and firm. We will respect your laws. But we will not bow to chains. We are not here to obey. We are here to stand. The chamber fell into silence once more. No empire dared attack again. The Titan had faced its test and emerged untouchable. The shock of that moment spread beyond Sarion's reach, carried by couriers and broadcasts to the farthest corners of the galaxy. Worlds whispered of humanity's power. Soldiers spoke of the Titan with awe. Rulers feared the shadow that now hung over them. But even as fear grew, so did curiosity. What else could humanity build? What other ships might they hide? And what history had forged them into this united, unyielding force? The galaxy did not yet have answers, but they knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had been tested, and they had not broken. And as the Titan turned slowly in the void, its lights glowing like a watchful guardian, a final thought spread through the minds of all who saw it. If humanity showed mercy today, what would they unleash if tomorrow demanded war? The news of the Titan's victory spread like wildfire across the stars, and no empire could ignore it anymore. For what had happened at Sarion's reach was not a small skirmish but a moment that shifted the balance of power for the entire galaxy. Every world, every fleet, every ruler received the reports of how humanity stood alone against the Drax Imperium, and how their mighty fleet had been crippled without a single loss of life. And that single fact changed everything, because the galaxy had always respected strength but it had never respected restraint, and now it was forced to face a power that held both in perfect balance. On distant trade stations, merchants whispered in awe that humanity was the future, for who else could bring peace through fear without bloodshed? On hidden military bases, admirals studied the recordings of the Titan's shield absorbing endless fire, calculating again, and each time coming to the same impossible conclusion that no known technology could match it. For the smaller empires, those who had long lived in the shadow of giants like the Core Dominion or the Drax Imperium, humanity's arrival was a miracle, for it meant the bullies of the galaxy finally had something to fear. Already whispers spread of alliances, of colonies eager to reach out to Earth and its people, of leaders hoping to tie their fates to humanity before others did. But for the great powers, the Titan was not hope, it was a threat. In the halls of the Core Dominion, warlords raged that their pride had been shattered, swearing oaths that they would one day tear down humanity's arrogance with fire and steel, though in secret their scientists worked desperately, scrambling to design new weapons that might pierce the Titan's impossible armor. In the cold silence of the VYRN collective, the machine minds calculated endlessly, running billions of predictions of humanity's rise, and in those predictions they saw a future where humans stood not as allies but as rulers of all, and for the first time in centuries the machines felt something close to unease. The Hellion Empire, caught between fear and admiration, debated if humanity should be crowned as guardians of peace or destroyed before they grew too powerful. Their council split between faith and paranoia. The trade guilds smiled wider than ever, for they saw in humanity not just war but wealth, imagining contracts, deals, and profits that stretched across the stars, though even their greed could not ignore the danger of dealing with a power that could decide trade routes with a single warship. Across the galaxy, reactions divided, but one truth united them all: humanity had changed the game, and there was no turning back. On the Titan itself, the human crew remained calm, their commander standing silent as he stared at the stars beyond Sarion's reach, knowing the galaxy was watching their every move. Messages poured in from allies, enemies, and those who pretended to be both, each word weighed with fear, respect, or deceit. Yet the humans answered them all the same, with confidence but not arrogance, with strength but not cruelty. In that calmness lay the true danger, for the galaxy realized that the Titan was not a rogue weapon, not a desperate gamble, but simply one part of humanity's will, and if one Titan could shake the stars, how many more might exist hidden in human space? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed Earth had a fleet of Titans waiting, others whispered of weapons even greater, and though no proof existed, fear did not need proof to grow. And as fear spread, so did respect, for many now looked at humanity as the shield the galaxy had always needed but never found, and others as the sword that would one day cut down all resistance. The galaxy responded in waves, some reaching out with hands of friendship, others sharpening their blades in secret, and through it all humanity stood unshaken. The Titan's victory was not just a battle won, it was a message carved into the fabric of history, a reminder that humanity would not kneel, would not hide, would not break. And though no more shots were fired that day, the real war had already begun, not of weapons but of influence, of alliances, of fear and faith. In the dark corners of space, whispers grew louder. If this was humanity's first step into the galaxy, then what would their second be, and could anyone stop them if they chose to march further? And as the Titan slowly turned, its massive form vanishing into the stars, the galaxy held its breath, for it knew this was not the end but only the beginning of a story that would echo for centuries. The story of a people who came from a small blue world and forced the galaxy itself to look up in awe and in fear. And the question on every tongue, spoken or unspoken, was the same. Had humanity come to save the galaxy, or to rule it?